My name is Captain Raghu Raman, and I'm going to be teaching leadership and elements of strategy here in this course. My background is fairly unusual. I've spent about 12 years in the armed forces in the Indian Army, in which again I had stints with various different regiments, the infantry, the mechanized infantry. I was also an instructor in the Armored Corps Center and School. So even within the army, I've had the opportunity to see different styles of leadership. After which I moved into the private sector and I worked with the Mahindra Group, and I led 3 companies for the Mahindra Group. And then I had another break in my career and I moved into the government as a bureaucrat in the Government of India, working in the Ministry of Home Affairs to raise an organization called the National Intelligence Grid. And then for my final stint, I moved back into Reliance Industries, where I was heading risk and security and new ventures for them. And that was my last corporate role. And May 2018, I decided to leave the corporate world and start working in another spaces, advisory, consulting, and of course teaching in universities such as this one. The course that I do over here is slightly different from the traditional academic curriculum, although it fits into it well, because this is from the practitioner's side. It's from how you actually take those principles of leadership or principles of strategy or those frameworks which are taught and which need to be learnt as a foundation. But what is the deviation when you have to apply it on ground? How do you make the rubber meet the road? And the first session, it's a 4-hour workshop. It's called Leadership at 26,000 feet. It's based on the elements of leadership required in actual combat when you're leading troops into battle. So there is no leader who will be a complete leader in everything. We are lucky if we are 60%, 70% there. But how do you take that 60, 70% and how do you focus on those key elements to make the mission successful? Here, and the most interesting part is that the students are put to in a situation which is a combat situation. It's a live combat situation, and they have to take a decision. And like any tough combat decision, it's a decision between one right and another right. And in both cases, they will lose lives. But the trick is to lose the least number of lives as possible. So it's actually quite a traumatic session. People who have attended it in the past have always felt that this was not so much about just learning a framework, but also emotionally experiencing that dilemma, the burden of command. So that's leadership at 26,000 feet. The second piece I do is on storytelling as a leader's toolkit. In my experience of 35 years, if a leader has to build an aspirational sort of can-do attitude in a team, it has to be done using stories. Storytelling is when a leader is able to create a shared reality in the team where each and every member of the team feels passionately about the mission of the team and they are able to put aside all differences. This session basically teaches students a fundamental framework using which you can take any narrative and put it into a structure which is far more compelling when it is articulated and far more engaging when it is sort of absorbed. The third session is on deep work, and I think this is a session that is probably going to be the killer app of the future. It's not me saying it. All over the world, people are talking about the ability to do deep, focused work on a demanding cognitive task will be the differentiator in a world where everybody's attention is very, very shallow. I mean, people think multitasking is switching between tasks, but in effect what they're doing is very shallow work. The ability of a performer to produce high quality elite work depends on their ability to focus and their ability to do what is called deep work. So this session basically teaches people how to do deep work. There is a adjunct to it which is accelerated learning, how you can learn rapidly, which is another skill that will be required in a VUCA world, or now what is called a ruptured world, where people, everybody, all walks of life, students, management, senior leaders have to very quickly learn a new technology or learn a new concept, a new paradigm. One session which will happen during the course is the principles of leading in a VUCA world. Firstly, explaining what is the VUCA world. I mean, I know everybody knows the definition or at least the full form of the acronym. But what does volatile mean? What does ambiguous mean? How ambiguous is ambiguous, and how can leaders take decisions even when they have incomplete data. So this talks about some of those principles of understanding how to operate in a VUCA world. More importantly, how to lead in a VUCA world, where you will not have all the answers, you will not have all the clarity and responses to many of the members or stakeholders that you're responsible to. The last workshop that we'll be learning about will be designing for culture. Usually, product designers, engineers, or even people who design policies, SOPs, strategy, they believe that designing the best possible solution is the right answer. But that's not true. You're designing a solution. Now, designing a solution has to be focused on the culture that is going to receive that solution. And the way the students are going to learn it is going to be very interesting, because they will learn it by the process of designing an assault rifle. Now, why an assault rifle? Many reasons for it. One is, of course, it's going to be a very interesting workshop, because most people haven't really designed an assault rifle before, but are probably eager to design one. But the more important reason is that whether you take a extremely rich country like the United States of America, or you take a relatively poor country, one of the third world countries, both the countries will have to equip their soldier with one assault rifle. So you may be the country with the largest defense budget in the world, but you will have to distill that knowledge, that money, the resources, the experience, the technology prowess into a 3.5 kilo piece of metal, which is an assault rifle. So whether you're the United States of America or you're a poor country from Africa, you can't equip your soldiers with 2 weapons. You can't say, I'm a rich country, so I'll give you 3 assault rifles. It doesn't work that way. So you have to take the entire cultural nuances of a soldier from your country or your area and design a weapon around that person. And during this process, the students will learn that there is no such thing as the best assault rifle. In this workshop, we'll learn how at the beginning of any sort of a design, we have to put the culture of the users in the central point of the pivot, and then maneuver around that pivot to create the ultimate or the best product for that culture. That's designing for culture.